Hey, what's going on everyone? I'm TheWeatherUpThere, and I'm an Ocarina of Time speedrunner. I've always focused primarily on the no ace Gim route run, or what was formerly called the any percent category, right up until the ace credits warp was found in Kokiri Forest just earlier this year. So a lot of people have been asking me to make some sort of how-to video for the Gim route, and so I decided to make a full series dedicated to it, with a similar layout to that of Michael Radar's Kakariko route tutorial from a few years back. So that means I'm going to have one video dedicated to each section of the run, and then within each video I'm going to have a few different levels of difficulty for each trick, so that whether you're a beginner runner just trying to learn the ropes, or a more experienced runner trying to learn some of the smaller optimizations for each trick, this should be a good series for you. Hopefully this layout will also make it a little easier to follow along if it's your first time through, or especially to reference back to if you need a refresher on any of the tricks, or if you wanted to learn some of those harder, faster versions of the same trick like I was talking about earlier. The last thing I wanted to mention is that this route uses a trick called Get Item Manipulation, often abbreviated as either GIM or GIM, and that trick can only be completed on the Wii Virtual Console or GameCube releases of the game. On other versions of the game such as N64 or Emulator, unfortunately the game is going to crash upon completion of the trick. So if you don't have a Wii or a GameCube, but you still want to learn to speedrun Ocarina of Time, I would recommend either starting with the Kakariko route like I mentioned earlier, or a different category entirely if you're interested. If you do have a Wii or a GameCube, then we can move on. Now before we get started, I wanted to talk about a few of the details of the route itself. Things like what we're going to need each step of the way and why, so that once we actually get to the tutorial, hopefully it makes a little bit more sense as we go. So let's get started. At its most basic, this route is entirely based around a single trick that we call a wrong warp. Now there's lots of videos all about what a wrong warp is and how it works, specifically a great video done by a runner by the name of Bismuth that explains everything in detail specifically about the wrong warp that we use in this run, often referred to as Ganondorf. Ganondorf gets its name because as we walk out the door in Gohma's room to enter B2 in the Deku Tree, we instead load Ganon's castle right at the end of the game. The main requirement that we need in order to pull off Ganondorf is a bottle with contents in it that we're able to drop and pick back up. This is so that we can do a trick called Ocarina Items. Ocarina Items is a glitch that allows us to play almost any item just as if it were an ocarina. This works by interrupting the animation of emptying the contents of the bottle that you're holding with the use of another item instead. Most often you see this done by backflipping, hitting the button you have assigned to the bottle, and then hitting another item, such as sword, before you land from that backflip. As you land, the game is still trying to play the animation associated with emptying a bottle, but because there's no animation associated with a sword, it plays the default animation instead. In Ocarina of Time, the default animation is playing the ocarina. If done at the edge of a blue warp, the animation of playing the ocarina interrupts the blue warp sequence and allows us to take control of Link. Once we have control of Link, we're able to exit Gohma's room and load Basement 2 in the Deku Tree on the same frame that the blue warp loads the Kokiri Emerald cutscene that normally plays after defeating Gohma. What this does is it loads B2 in the Deku Tree and adds a scene setup index related to the Kokiri Emerald cutscene, which is 5. The resulting entrance value loads a room in the interior of the tower collapse sequence after defeating Ganondorf. From here, all we have to do is complete the tower collapse sequence and defeat Ganon to finish the game. Everything we do in the run prior to Ganondorf is done to collect the requirements we need to do the wrong warp itself. That means collecting a bottle with contents in it that we can drop and pick back up again. In this case we use bugs, as well as collecting other items like the sword, the shield, Deku Nuts, and Deku Sticks, which we use for various things throughout the route. Collecting the bottle that we use for Ganondorf can be done in one of two separate ways. The original being traveling to Kakariko Village, completing the Cucco Collection minigame, and getting the bottle from Anju the Cucco Lady as a reward for retrieving her precious Cuccos. The second of the two methods uses a glitch called Get Item Manipulation, which glitches a bottle into our inventory inside of the Deku Tree. This means we never have to leave the Lost Woods and saves us quite a bit of time. Depending on which method you choose to use to collect the bottle, the route you take is going to be drastically different. This tutorial will cover the get item manipulation route. If you choose to use the Kakariko route, I recommend watching Michael Radar's Kakariko route tutorial and referencing back here for a couple updated tricks like wrong warp and B1 skip. Alright, so for a quick rundown of the Gim route, we're going to start off in Link's house in Kokiri Forest. From here, we're going to collect the Kokiri sword and then get enough rupees together to buy the Deku shield at the shop. Once we have both the shield and the sword, we can get past Mido to head to the Deku tree. Then once we get inside, we're going to complete Get Item Manipulation to glitch a bottle into our inventory, and then head down to the basement to defeat the dungeon's boss, Goma. Now if you remember right from earlier, in order to complete the wrong warp, we need a bottle with contents in it that we can drop and then pick back up again. Conveniently in the Lost Woods, right outside of Kokiri Forest, there's a patch of grass with bugs underneath it. So once we defeat Goma, we're going to head straight to the Lost Woods, collect the bugs, and then head straight back. Once we get back to the Deku tree, we're going to head back to the basement, complete the wrong warp to get to the Ganon's castle, and then complete the tower collapse sequence before defeating Ganon to beat the game. So for this first video, we're just going to cover the Enter Deku section. That's going to include collecting the Kokiri sword, a few different options for rupee collection movement, as well as the movement from the shop to the Deku tree itself, where we have to collect 2 Deku sticks along the way. Now before we waste any more time, let's get started. Okay, so we're almost done with the opening cutscene here, and something you're going to notice is that the game is on the Japanese version, and that is on purpose. Because the game writes out text boxes one character at a time, and because Japanese can simply write out more with fewer characters, we end up saving quite a bit of time just for having it on the Japanese version. Likewise, when you make a file name, it's wise to use a name that's just one character long. For the same reason, because it writes it out one character at a time. You'll end up saving time over the run. Alright, so the first thing we gotta do once we leave Link's house is get the Kokiri sword. And the fastest way to do that is going to be to do a backflip off of Link's little balcony here. So to do a backflip, once we get control of Link, we're gonna hit up to turn around, we're gonna target, and then we're gonna hit down and A at the same time to do a backflip. We're gonna keep backwalking until we get somewhere around here. So I'm looking at these 3 textures on the ground. I'll show you. There's the first one here under Link's feet, this like little light brown texture. There's the second one there, and there's the third one, right? So I'm looking for that third texture, and on that third texture, I'm gonna side hop to the right. I'm gonna walk a little bit more to the right, and then backwalk, pick up a green rupee, and backflip onto this little ramp here. From here, I'm going to roll up here. I'm lining up with that crawl space in the back there, just to the right of this first fence. So I'm going to line up with that crawl space, hit down, and target to turn around and backwalk. Backflip over the fence, keep walking, turn around, and enter the crawl space. So in full speed, it's going to look a little something like this. We're going to backflip, backwalk, and look for those textures for that side hop, get the green rupee, backflip, line up, turn around, backflip over the fence, turn around again, and enter the crawl space. Okay, so once we've gotten to the crawl space, the next part is going to be getting through this little maze in here to get to the Kokiri sword. So the fastest way to get through here is going to be to turn around and backwalk. Just tool around there or so, and then 2 side hops to the right, backwalk, 1 side hop to the left to pick up that blue rupee, 5 to the right and backwalk, and then once I see that sign come on screen, all I'm going to do is keep holding down but untarget, and Link's going to turn around like that, and then all you have to do is hit A to open the chest. So it sort of looks a little something like this. And he'll open the chest immediately. So it's a good way to open the chest without having to turn around and look. So in full speed, it's going to look a little something more like this. So we're going to turn around, 2 side hops, 1, and then 5 to the right, and then open the chest. Okay, so once we've gotten the Kokiri sword, we're going to turn around and get out of the maze in a very similar way. So we're going to target the chest by holding up and then hitting target, and then we're going to hold down to back walk. And then right around here, I pause to equip the sword. You have to pause somewhere. This is just where I choose to do it. And then from here, we're going to do 9 side hops to the right. There we go. And we're going to pick up a blue rupee there. We're going to do 2 side hops back to the left. And then we're going to walk a little bit extra. I watch for that sign to be pretty much directly in front of Link. And what that means is that the crawl space is going to be directly behind Link. So once I get to there, I'm going to back walk, untarget, and just hit A to enter the crawl space, similarly to how we opened the chest. Alright, so in full speed, it's going to look something a little more like this. We're going to target the chest and start back walking. Pause to equip the sword. 9 side hops. 2 back. And then turn around and enter the crawl space. Alright, so once we've got the Kokiri sword, all we have to do is collect enough rupees to buy the Deku shield. So if you've done everything right up to this point, you should have 13 rupees exactly. The Deku shield costs 40 total, but we can get a majority of the rest of them in this little fenced in area right here. So I switched to English just to show you a couple things. If you talk to this guy here, he says, hey, let's work on some moves, right? He's kind of a tutorial character in the game. He teaches you how to do side hops, teaches you how to do backflips, things like that, right? So you get the point. If you target this rock and do some backflips, you can collect rupees in midair just like that, right? So you can get a total of 7 rupees there. And then if you come over here to read this sign, it says thrust attack signs. And it teaches you how to do a thrust attack or a forward stab, where you basically target, hit forward on the control stick, and hit B at the same time. And it's telling you to do it on signs, so if you do it on the sign, it spits out 5 rupees, right? So using that knowledge, there's a couple different ways we can move around in this fenced-in area to collect those rupees as fast as possible before we leave. So let me show you how to do those. Okay, so first up is the normal rupee movement. For this, we're going to turn around after we exit the crawl space and target. Here we're going to do a backflip to collect the first green rupee, side hop to the left, backflip twice. During that first backflip, we collect both the blue and the green rupee. We're going to backflip off the fence and tap B to draw our sword, and then we're going to do 3 side hops to the left. From here, we're going to do a forward stab to collect the last blue rupee and a backflip onto the fence. And that's it. Something to keep in mind is that during the 3 side hops to the left, if at any point during these side hops you do a couple steps, sometimes you'll miss that last blue rupee here. So just be careful that during those side hops, you're just doing side hops and you're not walking to the side at all. For the sign rupee to work, you have to be pretty much right behind the sign like that. If you do miss it, like if you're over here when you miss it, you can always try to scoot over and see if you can get it that way as a backup. But just keep that in mind. Okay, so at full speed, normal rupee movement should look something like this. Backflip, side hop, 3 backflips, 3 side hops, a stab, and another backflip. And that's that. Alright, so next up is something that we call Rose Rock movement. This was named after a runner by the name of Rosewater, who came up with it a little over a year ago or something like that. This movement isn't too crazy difficult, but it only saves about a half a second, so if you're struggling with it or if you're a newer runner, it's probably worth just sticking to the normal rupee movement and working on this on the side until you're feeling more comfortable with it. To do it in full speed really quick, it's going to look something like this. Notice how you target the rock, and that changes Link's position. You essentially get to save 1 side hop and or backflip in this movement, which adds up to about a half a second. To slow it down, what we're going to do is start off by turning around, targeting and backflipping to collect the first rupee, side hopping, and this next backflip is where things get interesting. We're going to backflip and hit B immediately after so that we draw Link's sword in midair. We're going to untarget and retarget in midair, which is going to target the rock on Link's left. And then we're going to backflip once again as soon as we land. if we wait too long after landing, Link's angle is going to change and we won't be able to land on the fence like we're supposed to. So it should look like this. If we wait too long for that second backflip, it's going to look like this. Notice how he missed the fence. This is going to screw up the rest of the movement for this little setup. And you can still make your way over and get the rupee if that does happen. So it's good to learn how to back it up, when you need to. The rest of the movement after you land on that fence, all you're going to do is side hop to the left, backflip, side hop once more to the left, hit B to slash the sign, and then backflip to get out of the fenced-in area. But once again in full speed, Rose Rock movement is going to look like this. And that's that. Alright, so once we're done with the first half of the rupee collection, whether we chose to do normal movement or Rose Rock, the next step is going to be to hit up left, target, and then do 2 side hops to get off the platform. Alright, and once we're down here, we have a few different setups we could use for the second half of the rupee collection, which I'll go over now. Alright, so I switched it back to English really quick just to show you something else. If you come over here and read this sign, it's teaching you about Ocarina of Time's automatic jump function, where when you run towards an edge, Link jumps automatically. And so conveniently there's some stepping stones right here, and when you jump over them, the game gives you 5 rupees to congratulate your bold efforts. You can also do it over here on this set of stepping stones. So if you come over here, jump over these 2 gaps, the game will give you another 5 rupees. Alright, so in addition to the blue rupees that you can get from the stepping stones, there's also a blue rupee on top of the bridge in the middle of Kokiri Forest. And so there's a faster way to get up there that we call bridge clip, where you climb this fence here, run forward, and then jump slash on one specific frame, and it actually clips Link on top of the bridge. And then from here, all you gotta do is grab that blue rupee, jump down, and then do those stepping stones to get the last 5 rupees before going into the shop to buy the shield. Alright, so before I go over the different setups for bridge clip, it's worth mentioning that if you end up having a lot of trouble with this trick, it is possible to just skip it entirely. And what you do in that case is you do this first set of stepping stones, and then you'd head to the right to do the second set as well. And so of course you're losing time for doing it this way, but it adds up to just about 2 seconds or so. And so if you're having a lot of trouble, this is a good backup. I would definitely learn bridge clip though, because it's a really fun trick, but just keep this in mind. Alright, so first off, I just wanted to give a brief explanation as to how bridge clip actually works. And so when you jump off of this fence, Link has an arc to his jump, right? He goes up and then down. And if you jump slash at just the peak of that arc, Link goes even higher. And it's just high enough to where you can clip onto this bridge. And the way the clip works is the bridge doesn't have collision on the bottom, only the top. And so when you're sort of like half in and half out of that bridge, instead of pushing you down, it assumes that you're falling through it instead, and it clips you on top of it. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to climb this fence pretty much as far to the right as you can. It'll work a little bit further to the left, but the further right you are, the safer you'll be. You're just going to hold up to jump off the ledge, and then hit B at Link's highest point to do that jump slash, and you should clip onto the bridge. Just like that. From here, you just run and grab that rupee, do the first set of stepping stones, and then enter the shop. It's worth noting that the fence and the bridge are not parallel, so if you're not jumping from close enough to the edge of the fence, you're going to be too far away from the bridge for the clip to actually work. So keep that in mind for future setups. Alright, so now that we know how bridge clip actually works, there's going to be 2 different setups we can use from right here that are pretty fast. So the first is called pillar setup. So once we do the 2 side hops down from the platform from up above, we're going to hold left and roll, and we're going to be targeting this pillar right here. So to target a wall, all you're going to do is sort of walk into it, so like this, let go, and hit target. And Link's angle is going to be locked parallel to the wall. From here we line up. I sort of line up with textures on the wall. There's 2 somewhat triangular black dots on the wall. Right now Link's head is covering the rightmost one, and if I scoot over, now Link's head is covering the leftmost one. This is where we're going to line up. You want to cover that leftmost dot entirely with Link's head, and the lineup should be good. From here, we're going to do 4 side hops to the right, and backflip onto the fence just like that. From here, we're going to hold up and hit B to do bridge clip just like before. And then from here, all we're going to do is 5 side hops to the left, pick up that blue rupee, and then jump down, go over the stepping stones to collect the last blue rupee, and we can also do a little jump slash there to get a little closer to the door before that text box hits us. And that's pillar setup. Alright, so a couple notes about pillar setup. So while the lineup isn't super precise, like this, if you're too far to the left, like let's say around here, after you do those 4 side hops and the backflip, you will land on the fence, but when you hold forward to do the clip, Link sort of does that short hop off. And that's because you're too close to the front of the fence that Link doesn't have enough distance to pick up the speed you need to do a full jump. It's pretty easy to back up. You're just going to backflip back onto the fence and then try again. Just like that. And then you just continue as normal. Alright, so again, while this lineup isn't super precise, like you can be pretty much anywhere that covers the rightmost part of that dot. Like this is okay. And same thing on this side, like as long as you're covering that rightmost part of the dot, that's okay. But if you're too far to the right and you can see the white in between the black dot and the left side of Link's head, it's a good indication that you're too far to the right. If, for example, from here you do the 4 side hops and the backflip, Link is just going to miss the fence like that. And it's kind of annoying to back up because you have to just shuffle into position, backflip, and then do bridge clip. And you can still make it work, but it's kind of frustrating. Another option would be to sort of just like, you know, if you land here, shuffle to the left, climb up, and then do bridge clip like normal. Like that. And then from there, again, everything would be the same. Another option, as far as lineup goes, is instead of lining up on this black dot, like here, if you line up much more to the right, like somewhere around here, you do 3 side hops, and then you walk a little bit to the right as well. So 1, 2, 3, you walk a little bit extra, and then backflip, and do the clip. And that's another option, especially if you line up way too far to the right by accident. It'd be faster to do it like this than slowly line up and then go for it. Last thing I wanted to mention is that if you don't start side hopping back to the left immediately, Link is going to fall backwards and ledge grab just like that. Because after Link finishes a jump slash animation, he sort of stands up backwards like that. And it's just enough to make him fall off the ledge. Easiest way to fix it is to just start side hopping to the left as soon as you get the clip. Just like that. And you'll have no issues. Alright, so the fastest, but also the most difficult movement here is what we call bridge flip. We call it bridge flip because you simply line up, turn around, backflip, and get bridge clip straight away. It's the fastest way to get that blue rupee, but it's pretty difficult and it only saves in about a half a second to a second, depending on your movement. Okay, so you saw bridge flip in full speed. Now it's time to slow it down a little bit and explain what's happening. So from here, we're going to side hop off the platform and hold up left and roll as soon as Link lands. That's going to give Link an angle where he's sort of facing somewhere in the middle of this fence here. Sometimes you might be facing a little far to the right like this, and if you try to backflip on the fence like that, you're just going to miss. So you might have to adjust it. But either way, as long as your angle is somewhere like this, you should be good. So from there, you're going to turn around and backwalk, and you have to time your backflip. If you backflip too late, you're just going to miss the fence even though you have a good angle. But if you backflip too early, we're going to be too far away from the edge of the fence to be able to get bridge clip, if you remember from earlier. Alright, so once we get the lineup, we got to time that backflip so that we land pretty close to the edge of the fence, just like this. And as we land, we're going to hold right. This is going to make Link run off the edge of the fence just like before, and then we're going to time the B press to do bridge clip, just like before. The only difference is that instead of holding up, we're holding right. Alright, so again, as we backflip, we're going to hold right, and then time that B press just like before. The next part about bridge flip that's a little harder than the other setup is the bridge movement itself. Notice this weird angle we have. Normally we could just side hop to the left and not have to worry about falling off, but here we it's a little bit more easy to just jump off the edge by accident, right? All right, so what we're gonna do is as we land on the bridge, we're gonna hold up left and roll once. After that first roll, our angle changes once again, and we have to move our control stick a little bit above that up left notch. That's what makes it a little difficult. All right, so again, you're gonna hold up left for the first roll, and then just above up left for the second. It's gonna make Link pick up that blue rupee straight away, and all you have to do from here is jump off to the right, land on the first stepping stone, jump to the second, and cut off the corner on that third one just a little bit so you land in the water. You don't want to cut it off too much or the game won't think you went over that third stepping stone and you won't get the rupee at all. But it just saves a few frames here because you can just roll straight away and then jump slash to land as close to the door as you can as this text box shows up. And then just enter the shop. Okay, so I wanted to say one more thing about stepping stone movement before we move on. So regardless of whether you do bridge flip or pillar setup or anything else, it's important to know that the way these stepping stones work is off of a timer. So it's not actually keeping track of whether you touch the first stepping stone, the second one, or the third. All that matters is that you touch the first one and then reach the third one before the timer runs out. It'll often happen where you'll jump to the first one and accidentally jump straight in the water. But if you just come over here and side hop, you'll still get that blue rupee. So it becomes a really important backup because that's going to happen a lot more than you'd like to admit. So it's just important to know that before I move on. Alright, so once we've got all 35 rupees, we're going to enter the shop. The shield costs 40 rupees, but the last 5 are right in the corner back there. So once you've got all 40, you're going to buy the shield. And for a quick tip leaving the shop, once you're done with these text boxes, you're going to want to pause immediately and then equip shield, and then from here you're going to hold down and hit A as these menus are going away when you unpause. It's going to make Link roll out of the shop immediately without talking to the shopkeeper. So from here what you're going to do is roll up right as you leave the shop. It's going to make Link end up somewhere around here. You're going to hit up left, target, and then do 2 side hops. If you untarget and target again as he's going up on this ledge, it's going to fix his camera angle, but you don't have to do that if that's screwing you up a little bit. From here, you're just going to roll forward and talk to Mido. Mido checks to make sure you have both a shield and a sword, so make sure you equip both before talking to Mido or you'll lose a lot of time. From here, there's kind of 2 separate movements for picking up Deku sticks before entering the Deku tree, so I'll go over those now. From Mido to the Deku tree, there's 2 main parts. The first is collecting 2 Deku sticks that we're going to need for the rest of the run, and the second is a small cutscene boost that saves a little less than a second, and I'll get into that later. First, let's cover the 2 different methods that we can use to pick up Deku sticks. The first is just basic rolling like this. You're going to kill the leftmost one, and then the right. You're going to roll to pick up that left stick, and then pick up the right one, and then get into that cutscene boost later. One thing to keep in mind with both methods is that if you try to kill the Deku Baba too soon, it has invincibility frames just like that. So try to delay your sword slash just a little bit, so that when you kill it, you actually end up killing the Deku Baba. So in full speed, the rolling method should look something like this. The next method is the side hopping method. With this method, we're going to target after that 4th roll, and then do 4 side hops to the left, and kill that first Deku Baba with a horizontal slash by hitting left and B at the same time. We're going to kill this next Deku Baba with a forward thrust or a stab, and then we're going to back walk down left to pick up this first Deku stick. From here, we're going to pick up the second Deku stick, and then make our way to the cutscene boost that we're going to cover later. In full speed, the side hopping method should look something like this. It's worth noting that Both of these methods are relatively the same as far as time goes, with the side hopping method arguably being slightly faster, but it's best to just practice them both and do whichever one is easier or faster for you. Finally, I want to talk about the cutscene boost that we do right as we enter the Deku Tree cutscene. The reason this cutscene boost works is because the game is trying to bring Link into the correct position for the cutscene to start. It calculates the speed that Link needs to get from the starting point to the correct position, and that's how fast Link goes. However, when Link is stuck in an animation of doing a side hop followed by a jump slash, which keeps him in place for a pretty long time, the game isn't able to get him into position fast enough. So it compensates by raising his speed to a pretty silly amount that ends up shooting him halfway down this hill here towards the Deku Tree. This saves time because after this cutscene is over, we don't have to cover as much distance to actually enter the Deku Tree itself. So what you're going to do for the cutscene boost is you're going to target this wall, and then you're going to side hop and hit B for a jump slash immediately after. The jump slash has to be very fast or the trick won't work. So fast so that the way I do it is when I hit A for the side hop, I'm literally just sliding my thumb over onto the B button for the jump slash. Another thing to note is that the closer you are to the cutscene trigger, the greater your boost is going to be. To give you an idea, the little black dot on the wall next to Link's head right here, right now I'm covering it, that's pretty much where the cutscene trigger is. If I go any further, you're going to notice the cutscene starts pretty immediately. So that's a good visual cue, is that little black dot right to the right of Link's head right now. The further away you are, for example, if I do it from here, you're not going to get quite as dramatic of a boost. But it might still save a little time, but you really want to try to get as close to the cutscene trigger as you can, because then you're going to get a much greater boost and save even more time. Seeing as though the cutscene boost doesn't save all that much time, some runners opt out of it because if you waste too much time lining it up, or if you screw it up too many times, you're going to end up losing more time than it's worth. So if you choose not to do it, all you're going to do is roll a little left then up, turn around, and then just back walk to the Deku Tree to finish off the Enter Deku segment. If you do end up going for the cutscene boost, what you're going to do is just hold up right, roll out of the cutscene, turn around, and then walk into the Deku Tree just like before to finish off the Enter Deku segment. Alright y'all, so that concludes the Enter Deku portion of this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. The next video in this series is going to cover the item delay portion of the run, and we're going to go over the new quick put away web burn strat that Exodus has just found, as well as the rest of get item manipulation. So be sure to follow or subscribe or whatever so that you can get notifications for that next video, and I will see you guys next time.